pointless.
Paul and I are both angry, but for separate reasons.
Brad.
You want to go first?
Sure.
You want me to go first?
I think you should go first.
Okay, so Microsoft announced a whole bunch of new hardware today. We have a Surface Book 3, Surface Go 2, Surface Headphones 2. The delayed earbuds are now available. There are 2 new docks, which I'm actually somewhat interested more in the docks than some of the other stuff. And then there's also some keyboard bundles, but those don't really matter. So the reason I'm angry, Paul, is Microsoft sat down. They have the Surface cans, right? The Surface headphones.
Okay.
They're generally perceived to be good headphones. Like, they sound good. They have good noise canceling and all that stuff. And they said, we're going to revise these things. How can we make them better? They said battery life, that's a natural thing. We're going to improve the sound quality. That's a natural thing. Hey, should we make it work with our gaming console? Nah.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
It doesn't. And
But hold on a second. In the good news department, you can get them in black.
Yeah, I was when they set this embargo stuff over.
Well, hold on a second. Sorry to interrupt again, but the other thing you got to remember is it's not like Surface is in the same part of the company as Oh, go on. You were complaining.
Yeah, I was when they sent the embargo stuff over. I'm like, I'm gonna order the. I
know you're like flipping through it. Like, come on. Oh, come on.
Like the headset I'm using for my Xbox today is fine, but I would prefer to have one headset that works with my laptop, with my Xbox, with my phone, and we're not there yet.
That's that's fair.
So, anyways, those are $249. The earbuds are now $199. The Surface Go starts at the same $399 with the slightly larger display. The Surface Book 3 with all the specs that I'd mentioned. I think it's Core, 10th gen. I think it's Ice Lake, 1660.
But it's only up to an i7, right? They don't have the i9.
There's no i9, but you can, if you have unlimited monies, spec it out with a Quadro RTX 3000 GPU.
Yeah. And it does do 32 gigs of RAM, although I think the previous one did too, didn't it?
I think it did too.
I think so.
But anyways, you can spend a couple mortgage payments on these things if you really want.
I recommend not doing that.
Or if you do, share the wealth.
I think the high level thing, if you look at the two computers, they're the same form factors as their predecessors. I think literally, right? In the case, I know Surface Go 2 is exactly the same shell or whatever, the body. They didn't change that at all. Although, I mean, the screen's a little bigger, but I mean, honestly, it's a little, it is a little bigger, but it's still tiny, and the bezels is still huge on this thing. I mean, it's the only big thing on this device is the bezels. And then, Surface Surface Book. And I think you are too. I happen to be a big fan of Surface Book, despite the fact that I'll never take that screen off. I think that's ridiculous and pointless, and is a source of potential reliability issues down the road. And that hinge, creates that weird gap when you close it, which I was always very nervous about. I will say, in years of using it, I've never scratched the screen or dropped anything in there like you would imagine, maybe paper clips or something floating around in there. But whatever, it's goofy, but it's I've always really liked it, and we know changes are coming at some point, whatever, we keep expecting it next time, but I think it's proven to be kind of a durable design, and they don't really sell these things in volume, so keeping the hardware, the outside, and then upgrading the innards is fine. Apple does the same thing. I mean, what's the big deal? In some ways, the more interesting news, though, is the other stuff, right? So we knew about earbuds. Surface Headphone 2 is something of a surprise in the sense that we didn't know about it, 6 months ago. And then the travel dock thing is very interesting, right?
Yeah, that's actually kind of neat. From a
hub perspective. And it should work for. I assume. See, I don't actually know. I assume it's USB-C based and not Surface.
It works with Mac OS and Chromebook too. So anything that has USB-C, it'll work with.
So there's some pro cons to that, but I mean, you're not going to get the power of Thunderbolt, but you could make the argument on the road you don't need that power. And when you're on the road and just need that connectivity to different peripherals, USB-C, or let's call it USB, has proven to be more compatible, maybe is the right word, or there are less issues with it. So it seems like in that one case, their little dock type solution makes tons of sense. The bigger dock is just the old design with some USB-C ports on it. It's Surface Connect based, so it's only for Surface devices, and you're never going to get that 4K displays at 60 hertz thing. It's just impossible over Surface Connect. So that's unfortunate, but
Well, I think the new one should though. There's the new dock,
okay.
but not the USB-C one.
How would that even be possible?
Well, let me put it this way. So the new
Yep.
Surface dock, not the Travel Hub, does not
Yeah.
work with Surface Book 1, Surface Pro 3, Surface Pro 4.
So there's been okay. So they have they've increased the, what am I looking for? I guess bandwidth.
They've done something in there. So
that's very interesting. Okay, so there you go. That makes it very interesting. So if you have a Surface Book 2 or newer, then which is sort of their workstation class machine, that's something you could use. Okay, that's cool. That's good.
Now, granted, I don't have one, so I can't confirm that, but I'm hoping to get one at some point here.
That makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason they did it. Realistically, was because that was a huge downside to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they really went overboard on the USB-C ports on that thing, but I guess that's, we don't really call Surface future leaning that often, but that's
it's a good look. I mean, it's the right move.
Yeah.
So that's going to be. They're not cheap though. The dock itself is $249. I believe the Travel Hub is $99. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, go to Amazon and buy anything cheaper than that, but some people like to have the Microsoft branded stuff. Whatever. Whatever. There's some keyboards too that aren't actually Surface branded, but some new Microsoft ergonomic and non-ergonomic keyboard and keyboard sets.
Yep, the bundles.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit of announcement. The thing that Paul hates is the Surface Go 2. Which I disagree.
Hate is a strong word. I listen.
It's not an IPA. We'll put it that way.
No. Well, it is an IPA in the sense that no one should use one of these things. But how do I say this? Well, I'll just say what I said to you earlier. I understand the need for and the desire for Mehdi to stop texting us every time we do a podcast. We got to tell him when we do this because he does this every day. He's like, it's just like going like you can't see this, but my Skype thing, it's like notification. He just keeps. What is he typing about? Anyway,
probably he's typing about the Surface Go too. We want to go.
It's like, yeah, probably. I can't wait to get one. I understand the need for a cost-reduced Surface. I do, and we've seen the impact that doing this type of thing on the Apple side of the fence, which is what Microsoft's trying to emulate, has worked. The iPad, once they brought it down in price, started selling really well again. And, Apple sells at huge volumes. They can cost reduce really easily. They make their own processors. They can put a new processor in an old form factor and sell it for less. And it's something that they can do. And it's great. It's great for customers, There are different ways to cost reduce. I'll just put it like this. I mean, this is maybe the easiest way to demonstrate this. The thing is, this isn't like a cheaper Surface Pro. It's a smaller Surface Pro. So I don't know if you can see that, but see how much smaller that is? I mean, it's comically small. And to understand like the full width of this thing, that's the width. This is a small device too, by the way. This is only I think it's a 12.5 inch screen.
Yeah, something around there.
It's not even a 13-inch screen. That width is the smallest size where you can make a keyboard and call it a 100% size keyboard. It's full sized. This thing, I don't know, what is that? I don't know if it's 75% or something.
It is a small keyboard. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So the screen's small. Look, I'm 50 something years old. I can't, small screen, whatever. But it's not. I don't say this for me. I mean, I can't use this. That's fine. I mean, but obviously, I've been reviewing PC laptops for over 20 years. Like I can understand why someone might want this thing, and I can understand how people might use things in ways that I don't. So when I look at this, I think to myself, all other things being equal, a device this small, obviously it's super portable. If you could use it, it'd be kind of cool to carry this thing around. But it would have to get really good battery life. The performance would have to be there. And I think we know that those things are not the case, but whatever. If you're going to actually sit there and use it, I talk about this notion of like secondary devices and how most people use their phones most of the time. And sometimes they need a device with a bigger screen and a full-size keyboard. This doesn't even deliver that. It's not good for that. It's just too small, unless you're a child or a very small person, I guess. But the bigger issue, the thing you have to really step back and take the big picture from, I know some people can't stand Apple. And Someday you can show us on the doll where Apple hurt you, but whatever. Apple sells iPads that cost less than this thing. Those iPads get dramatically better battery life. They offer dramatically better performance. They have better screens. They have thinner form factors. They have an incredible ecosystem of hardware, for covers and keyboards and whatever, and for software and media ecosystems that just don't exist on this thing. Even if all you wanted it for was those traditional Microsoft things, Word, Excel, which you would never do on this. I don't know why I said Excel, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
An iPad is still a better choice for everybody. It's a better choice for your child. It's a better choice for your parents. It's a better choice for you as an IT professional or an adult of any kind who wants a secondary device where maybe they're sitting at on a couch watching TV at night or just reading or whatever. Like the problem is the iPad exists. So if you want to, like, if there was a PC, I think the way that Microsoft should cost reduce the Surface Pro is to keep the form factor. That's the other problem, by the way. Apple has gone into new generations of iPads with like smaller, bezels and different designs. Microsoft has been using this Pro design for 5 generations now, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. So they have a problem where if they can't make another one that looks exactly like their Pro until they maybe switch to the X design, which, by the way, is how this should go down. But what they really need is a device that's exactly a Pro, but with less hardware and less expensive hardware in the inside. In other words, maybe, look, I would split it at the M3 thing, and I know they've offered this at different times, but their entry level machine should be an M3 based Pro. And they could call it a non-Pro. Maybe they could even offer a version with a stupid Pentium processor or something else in it if they have to. But the corners they've cut in this device are the wrong corners.
They did round them, so technically they did them.
Okay.
Now, I will say, I don't disagree with much of what you said. I actually thought you were going to go in a slightly different direction.
Interesting.
So I do agree that there are a lot of corners cut for this thing. It is for a very specific use case of, this thing would be great for my daughter, candidly, to learn how to type on. Like, that's the type of thing, because if she trashes it,
but you know what? She would be better off. You could buy any keyboard adapter for an iPad, and she'd be better off using that, because then she still have the iPad for all those games and toys and movies and whatever.
Which she does. That's what she uses for all of her calls for school and most of her stuff.
Yep.
But
your daughter is what, 6 now? 6 years old?
Yeah, 6.
It's a little girl. And this is the right size device for that girl. There's no doubt about it. But it's that other stuff, but is there really a market for a device that's aimed at your daughter? And only at your daughter? I get it. I mean this honestly. I'm not trying to be critical of Microsoft or of anyone who wants a cost reduced Surface. I get it. I want one too. I think that makes sense. But it's just, it's kind of like the iPhone SE argument. People are falling all over themselves, applauding Apple for this thing. The one thing that's awesome about the iPhone SE, and there's only one thing, is the processor. And I feel like that's the wrong thing to get excited about, because if you look at like a Samsung A51, or if you look at the Google Pixel 4a that's coming out, those things have much bigger screens, much easier to see. They have mid-level processors, right? But everything else about them is better. So like the Apple has that one thing, and the Android devices have everything else. They have the same price point. The Android devices have more storage. They have more RAM. Not that that really matters. They have much better screens. They have more modern ways of signing into the device. They have a better camera. Kind of goes on and on and on. But everyone's like, "Oh my God!" But the processor, I feel like the Surface Go and Surface Go 2 is kind of like the iPhone SE. It's like we're getting excited about the price, the one thing, but everything else about it is kind of terrible. And if that's the only way you can sell this thing for $400, and by the way, without a type cover,
so that's
really
it will work with
$5, and it's, dude, you could spend this thing that they sent me. What they sent me is $1,000 of computer.
Yeah, it's
That's
the same one.
ridiculous.
Same one. That's right.
Yeah. If you add it up, because it's
This
got
one.
LTE, it's got the M3 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, it's got SSD storage, and it has a premium, what do you call it? A signature type cover.
Mm-hmm.
So add that up, it's about $1,000.
It's not cheap.
It's yeah. And if you throw a Surface Pen in, by the way, another thing you can get on the iPad, right? I mean, the problem for this device isn't just that iPad exists, although that's the first problem, and that should be the end of the flow chart. It's that even if you want a Windows PC for some reason, hate Apple for some reason, whatever, I get it. Like, you'd be better. You'd be better off with a used Surface Pro.
Yeah, if you could go find a 6. Yeah, we're on a 7.
5, 6, whatever. I mean,
for about that with a type cover.
Mm-hmm. And there you go. Then you have and that will last. And that's the thing. We get a little too excited about specs and stuff. Like a couple of years old Surface will last. And I mean, I know this because I know people using them.
Yeah.
Of course it will. The computers last forever now, unless you buy one that has a Pentium processor in it. By the way.
Well, the good part about that is if you buy that Pentium processor, you're also getting eMMC memory, so you really won't know what's slowing you down if it's the memory.
It's a double whammy of slow. That's right. Yeah. Those two things combined. I mean, that's why even on the previous gen Surface Go, if you had to get one, if you got the high end version with the 8 gigs of RAM, you got SSD storage. That helps. The M3 helps. There's no doubt about it. I think Microsoft said it was like a 64% performance improvement. What's 64% of zero? I don't even. So I'm curious. I don't know if you remember now because we've talked a bunch since you said this, but you said I went in a different direction on this complaint than you thought I was going to go on. Mm-hmm. And what did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were really just going to talk about how much you just didn't like the keyboard.
Oh, no. I mean, it's just too small. But I mean, look, I'm freakishly large. I get that, but
bear mitts.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like oven mitts, trying to type. And look, I have typed on it. I mean, it's possible. I wouldn't want to write an article or a book on it. I don't think that most adults could use it. Yes, in passing. But I mean, why would you spend $550 to $800 on a device that you could kind of, type on occasionally? I don't know. I'm trying not to be super negative about this thing, but I don't. It's like I see the problem. I see why they arrived at what they arrived at. It was just math, How does it add up to a certain price point? We have to use a 10 point something in screen. We can't go 11 or higher. We have to, use whatever processor that Intel slops out for us because we can't afford we have to go with slow RAM, LPP3, whatever RAM. We have to use eMMC storage, which is like something you would have had in a digital camera 10 years ago. Like, it's just, and then you kind of add it up. You're like, oh, we did it. We hit the price point. And then that thing you created is like is this.
I need to dig around, but I bet that Microsoft did not design or build this.
By the way, that's a fact. I know that for a fact.
Because
this was the only Surface device that was designed by a third party.
Yeah, because the original Go was.
It's the same design.
Yeah, same company. I bet. I can't remember. It's in the book. If you haven't bought it yet, you can go read
that. No, but that's true. That's a fact. Yeah.
So
yeah, and that was like again part of the cost savings. Like rather than put the guys that work at Microsoft are expensive. I mean, it's like here's the Surface Pro, make a cheap version of this. Mm-hmm. And part of that was, part of the appeal of this, and I do get it, is the form factor, the way it looks. It looks like it's a Surface device, right? I mean, if BMW hired a small a small business in Akron, Ohio, to design an M1 or whatever, as long as it looked like an M3 but was smaller. I'm making up things here. It would, I don't think anyone would care.
So here we are. We got Go 2, we got Book 3, we got Headphone 2, we got all sorts of stuff. We got another Microsoft event tomorrow, actually, an Xbox related thing where they're going to start showing off third-party games, and they announced that Xbox 2020 thing. Which is going to be interesting, I guess.
It's interesting watching them try to adapt to
in real time.
Right? And I don't begrudge them it. It's they want to generate a little bit of excitement. In other words, you don't come out with like a big announce in March and then
Nothing.
silence until October, and then everyone's like, what are we doing again? So we'll see what it looks like, but I think it's smart of them to try to stay
Keep it flowing.
in mind.
I mean, all signs point to this being a better launch than the last generation. So,
yeah, it's kind of a low bar.
yeah.
It's weird. I use the Xbox One every day.
So do I.
And I mean, literally every day. The first one was kind of a weird looking tank, but
well, it looked like a VCR.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like from the 70s. And of course it was too expensive and they bundled the Kinect with it, which was a mistake. And, we can go on and on about that stuff, but I mean, I love Xbox One. I always have. And it's not just talk. I mean, like I said, we use it every day. So yeah, that's I will never understand. People can explain it all they want. I wrote about this at the time. I mean, the notion that Sony had any kind of brand loyalty at all, it was ludicrous to me. The notion that Xbox fans, who to me are the most ardent and excitable people on earth, would ever abandon this platform because of whatever was nonsense to me. Xbox 360 outsold the PlayStation 3 for most of its active lifetime, and then the way it kind of rounded down that PlayStation 3 outsold it by a little bit by the end. But let's just say those things were neck and neck. This generation has been it's just an upheaval. It doesn't the sheer scope of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, Sony invested in games and other stuff right out of the gate, and Microsoft didn't have a lot on the horizon when it came out. I mean, their thing was, hey, let's go dance in front of the TV, which I like to think Roger Goodell still does because he had a Kinect in his basement that I'm sure he uses often.
Oh, God.
I just imagine him like sitting in front of the thing like a Sith Lord, like how he used that Star Wars thing, and like when somebody gets a fine or whatever, he goes, and then that just like lops their head off on the screen, and that's how the trials work.
I know it's the off season, but could I find Tom Brady for something? Tom Brady was caught working out in a park in Tampa Bay. He's going to be suspended for 3 games.
Is that Gronkowski in the background? Yeah, it is.
Exactly. Yeah, Gronkowski was doing push-ups with Tom Brady on his back.
I got to tell you, I read a lot of Bengals forums, or one specifically, I should say.
What is up with your life? Why?
And I've never seen people so excited about it, because we actually have like an NFL team potentially. Like we have a chance.
Do you really think that the addition of a college quarterback makes you an NFL team?
No. We did good moves in free agency. We shored up things, and now we're all just sitting there thinking like, is there even going to be an NFL season? And so that's going to be the perfect Bengals thing to happen, is that we get #1 draft pick quarterback, and then we don't actually get to use him. Or he'll get hurt. Not gonna win.
My friend sent me a clip from ESPN. It was kind of a compilation clip of the stuff that they're showing now. And one of them was like so there's like Korean baseball, which is they actually have like pictures of fans in the stadium, which is really funny. But at least it's a sport, and it's like a professional sport, I guess. Yeah. But then there's all the crazy stuff, stone skipping and
stone skipping.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Frisbee something. There's one. It was like I forget the name of it. I think it's in somewhere in the northern United States. It's like you jump off of a diving board that's like 20, 25 feet in the air, and you try to hurt yourself. Like you have to do like the worst possible landing in the water. You know what I mean? Like when what do you call it? Belly flop or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were guys announcing this like it was a professional sports event.
Well, when you got nothing else.
So actually, in that scope, honestly, the Bengals do look like a professional sports team. So, if you can avoid a, how do I say this on? So never mind. I don't want to be crude. If you could, just take the field. I think would be enough.
Yeah, Wasn't there a Star Wars called like A New Hope or something?
Yeah, there is.
There we go. That was the Bengals. Spent some money. We've got a new hope, and here we go.
Okay, I appreciate your enthusiasm.